And I find it interesting because you say you had your kind of stories or ideas that you wanted to talk about. How far in advance do you know this? Do you kind of store ideas up over the years?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely. Like this Clear the Way, the song about the Irish Brigade.
Right.
That's been in my head for probably 15 years. Not the music, but I mean the idea. And
right.
It's the same with Watching Over Me. You know, for instance, you know, that song was written many years after Bill died, and sometimes it takes a long time of processing things and kind of they bubble beneath the surface, and then when the time's right, it comes out. You know.
Was it still a tough song to write?
Yeah, it's still tough to play it live sometimes,
okay.
especially when you see some kid down in front, you know, whatever, crying their eyes out, and it happens a lot when we're playing it. Then, you know, it can really shake you up, and it's gotten all of us before, and there's a few times where Stu's had to stop singing
right.
a little bit, and Matt certainly back in the day. It's a powerful song.
Sure.
So yeah.
And kind of on this, because you mentioned the reaction of the people in the crowd. But is it? I imagine that's a really good feeling to see somebody be able to connect emotionally to what you've written and what you've.
Yeah, it's the best. I mean, it's heavy in the moment, but then you're like, man, that's really what this is all about.
Right.
You know? So it's cool.
Is there maybe a reaction you had from a fan that sticks out in your mind?
You know, sadly, I've heard the same kind of stories a lot of times because, you know, we always lose loved ones. It's an
right.
unfortunate part of living, and so I've heard a lot of those stories through the years. You know,
sure.
but I've always heard that that song and several of the others in the catalog have helped people through brutal stuff, battles with cancer. I mean, all kinds of shit, and that's it's great. It's a powerful thing.
And for yourself, then, I don't know, I'm not a writer or anything, so I don't know how this works, but do you get empowered from the music you write?
Yes, for a period.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think that the initial, like I know when I'm onto something, for sure.
Right.
Sometimes I also know when I'm going through the motions, and I do it anyway because of whatever is going on. But the really strong stuff is like, it's definitely, you can always tell a record has been made when everybody's feeling good and the energy's up and we have fun in the process, but that's like during the recording, but also in the writing process and pre-production that you're really tapping into something,
right.
and you can feel it, you know, and you know, like if I get goosebumps every once in a while and that happens, and then I know I'm on the right track. And it happens a lot even way before we get into the vocal part, you know, and that's the icing on the cake. That
right.
takes it to another level. But if you can do it instrumentally and you can get that reaction to, you know, the hair standing up test, then, you know, for whatever's happening, you're hitting on it.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
And, well, obviously over the years you've had your fair share of lineup changes, so is it difficult to, or maybe not, that's not the right phrasing, but how do you kind of create an atmosphere where that can happen because of new personnel coming in or somebody leaving?
I don't think that has anything to do with Goosebumps. You know what I mean? Whether somebody's in the band or not. That's just that's in the writing process, and I do that alone.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because we live all over the planet, so we can't. In the really old days, we would get together and jam through the parts because we all lived in Tampa, but that's been a long time since that happened.
And so now we have internet and.
Yeah, but we don't even use that except to share demo ideas. You know, it's not like I'll start a session file and lay some guitar parts and send it to Brent to program drums because he doesn't have the ability to do that, so I have to do it. You know what I mean? And he's in Florida, Stu's in Canada, Luke's in England, Jake's in California. It's a very international band, so I have to do super detailed pre-production demos to send those guys. And if they're sending me riffs, ideas to work with, I'll develop and turn it into something and then send it back to them, and they start learning the songs. And then when they come to do their parts, then it gets they execute their parts in their way, you know. Mm-hmm. So
was it tough to see like Troy leave and then?
Oh yeah, sure.
Because then well, at the same time, Brent came back.
Yeah.
So how? Because I can imagine that changes the dynamic a bit.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt that it changes the chemistry because we're all energy. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And so there's always going to be some kind of a shift in things. But with Brent's been in and out of the band several times in the last 20 years or so, and. But Troy, it was sad with Troy. You know, he's a brother. He always will be. He was a good friend before he joined the band. Then he, you know, it's just personal stuff in his life going on. He's got to deal with. It's just part of it, man. And so we definitely miss his dark sense of humor. He's a very twisted individual, but he lives in Indiana and he lives really close to me. So I mean, we text each other almost every day. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
And. So I want to get back to Clear the Way a little bit, because you mentioned that you had this idea simmering inside you for a while. What made this event, it's the battle at Fredericksburg, so what made this so interesting to you?
Well, yeah, the song isn't really about the battle it's itself. It's just it's about the tragedy of the Irish Brigade. You know, it's a kind of a tribute to those guys, and I think it's just a very human, very tragic story of, you know, immigrants fleeing their homeland because of starvation and, you know, their lands being stolen and all this horrible stuff from the British Empire, and they come to the States, and the States is in the middle of a civil war.
Right.
You know, and you know they're docking the ships and they get off, and then the military's there, you know, fight for your new country. Here's a rifle, here's a uniform, sign right here, we're going to pay you this. And then a lot of them did it. And it happened, that was going on in the South too. So you had like both sides of it. And at Fredericksburg, the Irish Brigade were on the second day, they were sent up the middle of the battlefield under horrific conditions. I mean, there's bodies everywhere, right. And it's there. The Confederates had the high ground. It was open. They were just getting shredded. And so you have that. But then as they get closer to the wall at Murray's Heights, these guys could see that the Confederates could see that it was the Irish they were having to fight on, and it was the Irish Brigade also directly across. So they were fighting each other in their new country, and you know, I just can only imagine how heavy that must have been.
The kind of the futility of it.
Exactly, yeah, and you know, to see I mean, it's a horrific thing to think about. You know, even a country going to war against itself, and it happens often through history. You know, you have civil wars, but then that story of those guys coming and ended up on both sides and then standing off against each other on a battlefield, you know,
right.
Pretty heavy.
And there's one more song I want to go into in depth a little bit more, because well, you mentioned writing, the way you write with sorry, Stu, and that was Brothers, I believe, is one where you kind of collaborated the most in a sense. Am I right?
Well, lyrically, yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of his ideas when we were on the phone, and he said, "Man, I think we should write a song about our brotherhood." And I said, "That's a great idea." And I just put the musical arrangement together for whatever my instincts told me that a big metal anthem would be the right kind of thing to go with it. And yeah, we started working on it, and we sat in the control room and wrote the lyrics together and recorded the demo vocal, and there it was. So, and with a song like this, we kind of touched upon it in the beginning, but do you, whenever, I don't know how much you've played it live, if you have played it live? No, not yet.
But if you hear that song, are you reconnected to that initial emotion and kind of the feeling of when you wrote it? Yeah,
that happens, definitely. There's no doubt, man. Some not with every song, but there are some that are, and it's weird too, because sometimes you feel it a lot stronger than others. It's not the same every night. I think maybe it depends on your emotional state, the energy in the crowd, the dynamic of the whole situation.
Is there one song from your back catalog in a way that gets you every time?
Yeah, watching over me
Okay.
would be that it gets me on some level every time.
Right.
And sometimes it's a lot harder to handle, and I know that's definitely depends on, it definitely depends on my own state of mind. But if
Sure.
there's people in the audience that are really emotional about it, and that happens every night. It's just how many. But some, then it really can hit us all. So yeah.
And so, because you talked about kind of not time off, because obviously you were working, but that time away from writing, and so are you now very excited to go back on the road?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the reaction of the fans and getting, the festivals are it's always a different kind of a situation because you have different set lengths and it's one of those things. It's a completely different experience. I'm looking forward to the headline tour,
right?
And then knowing really which songs are hitting the audience the right way, which ones the fans are reacting to, and looking forward to playing a good chunk of them live. I mean, I think this album they'll want that, but it's 12 albums. It's getting hard to make a set list.
Right.
I mean, it's a challenge, and we always you got to find the balance of playing new stuff but not playing so much new stuff because the people don't know it that well, and it's a little bit tricky.
And then kind of to end off, we mentioned your interest in history, so, and this might be a little bit too grandiose, but where do you see yourself fitting in the musical landscape, so to say, what you've done?
I mean, I'm pretty proud of the fact that we have one of the most loyal fan bases in the world. They're up there with the loyalty of the Maiden and Kiss fans, just on a smaller scale, but their passion is every bit as strong and powerful, and that's a great thing. But as far as what I don't know, I don't know how to describe what I've done with it or how it'll be looked at. That's up for other people to decide. I know I was through my career, and I've been completely devoted to the vision. The vision is incorruptible, completely. I mean, it just is something that iced earth that it can't be corrupted. It's just not possible. It would have happened a long time ago, and it's a pure commitment to heavy metal, man, and to try to do authentic songwriting. It hopefully touches people.
Final question then, because you mentioned Iron Maiden as well, and those fan bases, and in my opinion, I don't know how you feel about this, but metal fans are some of the more loyal, most loyal, most loyal fans. So
yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think the music that you make and then that kind of your peers make, can it touch so many people?
Because I think it's because metalheads typically are more of like the black sheep, and we think differently than the sort of the most of the zombie population that's out there just going through the motions. And metalheads are typically pretty smart people and passionate people, but still like outsiders to a degree, and that makes a bond and a sort of a loyalty. And it also, I mean, of course you have the fans that, they're metal fans, then they go through school, they get a job, they start a family, and they sort of drop off for a while. But for most of us, it becomes kind of a way of life. And even if you do have a job at an office where you have to put a suit on every day, but you're a metalhead, it's not trendy. There's nothing trendy about heavy metal. It's a commitment. It's like a way of life. And I think it's just because for people that tend to think for themselves and are naturally more rebellious and more against the mainstream and everything, that it's somehow that music connects with people like that, and actually that's what created that music.
Sure.
And I don't know, man. It's a cool thing, for sure. It's once you're in, and on my level, my perspective, I should say, not my level, but the way I do. It's my job. I'm a professional. Sure. That I call it the curse. Like once you have it, it's hard because it's always going to be there. That drive to create stuff and to, I'm sure that's always going to be there with me. And I know a lot of guys in this business, and even if they've gotten out for a little while, they come back because they have the curse.
I think that's a good ending. John, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.